This is where the wisdom and some of the oldies come on and distinguish.
Talk for yourself.
Well, I say that because today is my 50th birthday, and I wouldn't wish to be anyone. Wouldn't wish to be anywhere else as an Arsenal fan, a rugby player, and obviously we've worked with Andrea in the past. But my name's Robeson, and I run a business called Boyden, which is an executive search firm. We've spent 77 years finding excellent talent, and we've got an amazing panel in front of us today. The world is a topsy-turvy place, and the pressures and changes that we're all dealing with are relentless, I think. We're not quite sure what is coming over the fence next. So we're going to try not to talk about the pandemic, although that's influenced a lot of the behaviours of our businesses over the last couple of years. But I think it was a catalyst for all of the organisations here, and I'll let them talk a little bit about who they are and what they've been through. But from the conversations that we had as we got together and talked about this session, it was very, very clear that it was a catalyst for speed of transformation, and for speed in relation to probably engaging with the talent in our organisations to achieve that. So I'm delighted to welcome everybody here today. I'm going to start with Juliet. Well done last night. Top of the league again.
Top of the league again.
Top of the league.
For the time being.
Tell us a little about a bit of background, and I guess a couple of things that you're dealing with this year, and perhaps what's on the horizon for you for next year.
Thank you. Well, really lovely to be here. Thank you for having me. So I've been the Chief Commercial Officer of Arsenal for 16 months now. I've been in the business of sport since my last year at university. I was AU chairperson, which means I basically organised the finances for student sport. But that kind of gave me the opportunity to think, this is where I want to be. You're going to spend 75% of your time at work. You want to do something you're passionate about. I love sport. So I've been rights holder side, Fulham Football Club. I worked on the London 2012 Olympic bid with Seb and Keith, and worked agency side. And then previously to Ascot, I was at Ascot Racecourse for 8 years, working ostensibly for Her Majesty the Queen. And then I found myself at Arsenal Football Club, so back to football again. And I've been there 15 months, and it's amazing. It's not just amazing because of what we've been going through over the last 2 years in rebuilding the team, the men's team on the pitch, but also what we're doing for our women's football. And we are... For those of you that don't know, we sold out the Emirates Stadium on Monday night. We had over 60,000 people paid to come and watch our women's team unfortunately lose this year to Wolfsburg. But we've broken 3 records this year for the women's football team, and I'm super proud of that, because they have really demonstrated what amazing athletes they are. But anyway, this what's on my mind. So I wake up every day thinking about how I'm going to accelerate the transformation that we have put in place at Arsenal, that has been probably a little bit asleep commercially for a few years for various reasons, and also had to take one step back during the pandemic. How are we going to effect a transformation as quickly as possible without falling over our own feet, so that we can become once again financially sustainable as a football club? So Arsenal was always known to be the club that balanced its books. Even under Wenger, who bought very cleverly and sold very cleverly his players, which is a big part of your income stream, and also was progressive in terms of how we generated income. And my job is to do it ethically and in the right way, but to make a lot more money than we have been making, so that we are financially sustainable. So that's what keeps me awake at night. And then also just, we still could win the league. That still also would be transformation for us. So yeah, it's an amazing, absolute honour to work for a football club that knows what it stands for on and off the pitch. Always have done, and we really do know that and how we want to show up. So even if we come second this year, it will be a massive step forward for us as a club on the journey of where we know we're going. So I'm very proud to be a mere steward of the club for a few years and to have that opportunity.
Simon, you've had an interesting 15 months, including a little bit of a trip to the select committee at one point, but tell us a little bit about what you're dealing with at the Premiership Rugby.
Yeah, so I'm Chief Executive of Premiership Rugby. I've been there just a little over a year. I've spent 12 years working in sport in various different roles, and they were defined by either high growth or turnaround. And I'm sort of dealing with probably two here, both sides of that, which I'm doing at the moment. But the big focus has been around turnaround. It was really interesting listening to Ali, the founder of Babylon, earlier on. I think he sort of said two things that fascinated me. I think the first one was how to resuscitate a dead pig.
Connected.
I'll ask it for a friend, yeah. And the second bit was that challenge around either trying to pump up the old or focus on the new, as we said. And for me, that's really the thing I'm trying to do. So what I've got and what we have is a fantastic product. So if you take out football and both the Premiership level and also the Football League level, Premiership Rugby is the biggest league in the country outside football. Huge amount of interest, 10 million rugby fans around the country, and a big opportunity. So that's the sort of growth piece. And actually, when you look at what's happening on the pitch and how entertaining it is, we've got something really special there. But so that's the sort of the old, and trying to preserve that and modernise it and make it fit for modern consumers. The difficult bit is what sits behind it. It's the infrastructure that sits there. And what you've got is a sport that's actually only relatively new from a professional point of view. So the game when you went professional in 1996, but it was set up in a way that it was fundamentally wrong, frankly. It created conflict. There wasn't the appropriate level of risk allocated across the system. The club side of things is inherently loss-making, which isn't uncommon for sports teams, but took an absolute pounding through the pandemic. But the real thing to focus on, and the major area of change is around governance to start on with. And what we've got is conflict, we've got a lack of independence, we've got situations which either require supermajority or unanimous decision making, which just to kill it in terms of growth and change. So there's a big focus on that, and whilst doing that, there's a huge amount of fan interest, player interest, media interest. We have now a private equity partner in CVC who's invested not only in the league but other rugby properties, and has invested more broadly across sport. You know, put a lot of money into it. And then on top of that, government interest as well, because they'd loaned these clubs £125 million during the pandemic, and so therefore it becomes a public interest, a political interest, hence immigrant of celebrities.
Oliver, fund management. You've gone from PLC to private in the last couple of years. You've had to completely transition your business. Give us a little bit of background into yourself.
Sure. So I work for a business that's probably less well known than the others on here. Called our Global Group. I've been with that business for nearly 10 years, and I have been a big part of its growth journey. But I guess in the last 3 years, it's gone through quite a significant strategic transition, one of our own making, and that was quite a bold move that we made to say, look, we're a leading firm in credit management, and however, we can see there's a bunch of risks on the horizon around that business model, and we're going to be deliberate about transitioning into being a fund manager, and really quite a nascent fund manager, and one that's relatively small compared to some of the enormous global fund management groups out there. We specialise in alternatives, so in private credit, in real estate, and we are vertically integrated, so we own most of our value chain. So we actually have about 2,500 people across 5 countries. And we hold that out as a big differentiator because we invest in these sort of esoteric, illiquid assets and we have people on the, in local territories on the ground who understand their markets better than a single central team would do. My role now, I've had a bunch of different sort of leadership roles in growing the business, but my role now is running the professional services business, which is again a nascent part of the group, incepted last year, about 200 people that sit within it, and effectively it operates as a professional services and fund management services business to serve the funds and to help the funds develop and grow. And I mean, the big challenges around doing something like that, it's great in one respect because you get to launch a business within the safety net of a group, but you're constantly thinking about the identity of that business, its role in the group, whether it's understood, the sort of working practices that we've had to change and implement across Europe to get that off the ground. And it's cliche, but fundamental to all that is the people. It's a people-driven business. We have technology that enables some of what we do, but frankly, if we didn't have the talent and the capabilities there, nobody would invest in us. We were a PLC for nearly 8 years, which was an interesting experience, both sort of road wave up and down, and certainly the pandemic had a sort of quite significant impact on us. And then we were taken private end of 2021, and we're now owned by TDR Capital.
I'm conscious we've got businesses here with between 60 and 2,500 people, so there's a really interesting range of experiences. Andrea, PRS.
Yeah, so PRS for Music. We have 165,000 members that compose and write music. Many that you know, Ed Sheeran, Elton John, Sting, Stormzy, etc., all around the world that travel, their music travels around the world. Close to £1 billion business, very complex in the sense PRS for Music is for profit, reporting into PRS, which is a non-for-profit owned by members. So very complex structure and governance, a lot of stakeholder management. My background is CEO of different companies around the world. I've been a CEO for almost 20 years, different industries, but always old industries that needed transformation. With tech, my background is data and tech. And so it was very interesting to become CEO of PRS for Music. I didn't know anything about music. And so coming in and hit by the pandemic was quite something. My focus for 2023 is all about people. And it's the greatest strategy, but if we don't have the talent, and we're now at a stage, when I came in, there was fundamental broken company. And so we really had to be brilliant at the basics on the system side, on the culture side, on the mindset, changing all that. And we did it. And now we're at a stage where we need to be intrapreneurial. So not an old company that has to be really good at the core, but has to innovate and to really, because we're being displaced because of digital. And I would say the key issue is AI. Especially in the UK government wants to deregulate copyright to advantage tech companies, and you can imagine what that will do to our members, right? So we have to make sure that we protect the rights that are entrusted to us.
All of you have taken, whether it's Arsenal and a very established brand that's changing and looking at different ways to engage with its consumer, the same with the Premiership, completely transforming your organisation, the PRS. Can you just tell us a little bit about how you led, I'll start with you, Andrew, if I may, how you led with your organisation through that transformation, how you, the sort of the Midas touch, if you like, in terms of grabbing hold of stakeholders and gaining the engagement you needed?
Yeah, well, I thought I was going to be ready, transforming at least 5 companies in different crises around the world. But I was not ready for this, and thank God I called my father, and he said, "You have everything you can to be able to do this." But I would say it was communication, and people. That was the most important thing, is to make sure that I talk to the employees every week, and they could ask me whatever they wanted. We had a focused plan. We had our priorities, what we had to do, because 25% of our revenues comes from public performance. So live music that's played here, pubs, everywhere. So suddenly overnight, our members didn't have that money. So we had to pivot really quickly. So it was really important to have a people-focused approach, and not just employees, but stakeholders. You could imagine our 165,000 members, their livelihood depended on us. So a lot around people, listening to people, helping them go through it, being authentic. I didn't pretend that I knew the answers. I had a very strong team by then. It's the first thing I did when I came in, is I built that strong team. That was the first thing. I think that really, and then finding new solutions to old problems and being comfortable with change and embracing that uncertainty. But it was tough. It was really tough.
Did you, so I'm conscious of Reader's Digest and various backgrounds and British Olympic Authority for URFU, did you bring in existing playbooks? And that's a question to all of you.
Yeah, I mean, I think I came into a situation where it was broken because it was January last year. It was coming out of the back of the pandemic, and I think everyone's got a tough pandemic story. But I think for the sports industry, it was one of the most hit. So you had knackered, shell-shocked people and a very divided leadership and no plan. And so the playbook, which I think is pretty similar for any chief exec coming in, was get a plan together, but create it collaboratively. And especially when you live in such a multi-stakeholder environment we do, clubs, investors, media, players, fans, etc. You have to take everyone on that journey, and you have to do it quickly. You need to give some guidance, but everyone needs to feel a part of it. And so, I've experienced that before in other organisations. I'm sure you have as well. And then, to your point, it's about communicating it and just getting bored of communicating it, repeating it, but also making sure that people understand, especially in this very volatile world, that plans need to adapt. And so and that was part of the other cultural mindset, because there were a lot of very experienced people who've been there a long time, they've only done something in a certain way, and so you're having to blend old school and new school thinking there. So that's really the journey we've been on the last few months.
So I think for us at Arsenal, might sound strange to say, but actually the pandemic created a real opportunity. We had to make some very different decisions about losing members of staff just to keep our heads afloat, because football clubs weren't taking any money from the government for furlough. Yeah, that's my word. Remember that word? But it gave us an opportunity to really focus on our culture and to reinforce what Arsenal used to be known for as a one culture club. Lots of football clubs, people like me, the commercial people, don't connect to the football side, and it's sort of, one culture. We are very much one culture. I know I speak to Mikhail, I speak to Edu. It's part of, he wanted to see our commercial strategy. How can we come together? But we started with a culture piece born out of a really big piece of work we'd done during the pandemic on what our brand stood for to our supporters. And we then have been building and embedding that into the culture of the club as part of the transformation and bringing all of our staff on the journey together, cross-functional groups around our culture, so people from football sitting with people from ops, and all together, like, what are we trying to do? What are we trying to achieve on and off the pitch? And then going on roadshows. I'm like Simon, I have presented our commercial strategy so many times, I could do it off by heart. I've got some very simple phrases. We're going from local to match day to every day to global, because we are a global brand, but we were focused locally around what we did in the UK, where we have 80 million people who come into our ecosystem every year to engage with Arsenal. We weren't really serving them. We talk about serving our supporters, putting it at the heart of the business, and then moving our tech and data to allow us to serve them what they want, where they want, rather than what we want, when we want, where we want, which is what we were doing. So giving people the kind of the tools to talk about what we're doing in their everyday life, and then saying, this isn't a commercial department that sits over here. We're one club, we're all working together to be financially sustainable and to continue to say it. And you're right, you can feel like a broken record, but actually you have to keep reinforcing the very clear, simple messages, and then building the right team, as Andrea said, bringing in people with the right expertise and having a very clear structure, delegated authority, because we're a global brand, we've not very many people. That's one of the biggest things. You walk into a football club and we've got 600 staff total. Man City and Man United have got over 1,000, so we are playing catch up, but actually we have 80 million supporters around the world. That's an enormous number of customers. So yeah, it's about making sure you're really clear, you know what you're going to do, and you have one club ethos, and knowing how you want to show up in every single part of your business.
Oliver, I'm going to pick on you slightly. It's been 9 years in an organisation, a number of different roles within that organisation. The qualities needed in a leader now.
Yeah, and for me personally, it's been a massive apprenticeship as well. I mean, I joined the business with you could see it on one floor that was the entire business. To one that when you're then having to manage teams, directly manage teams across 5 countries, dealing with different cultures, language barriers. We were sort of fortunate in one respect with the way the timing was worked, because we raised the first of our credit funds before the pandemic, but then we were implementing this change as the pandemic set in. So we were faced with the same challenges everybody had about you couldn't travel anywhere, you couldn't physically engage with people. You had these acceleration of technology that was good in one respect, but lost the mediums that completely lost the human touch and the impact of body language and rituals and symbols and routines that exist in organisations that you really need to unpick if you want to implement any change. And so that was definitely an added challenge.
Resilience, agility, high ability to communicate. It's interesting what Carita was talking about in the last conversation. Actually, there's lots of skills we all need, but these are the skills we need to really bring to the fore. Simon, if we can talk a little bit about talent and on and off the pitch, or what's being cut out, particularly from a reputation of rugby as a brand, and I think that's global rugby. I'm just wondering how that's impacted your ability to engage and entice talent into your organisation. Of course, it's a smaller organisation than most, but still critical you get the right skills to go forward.
Yeah, and it's dramatically changed because of the turnaround nature, and because actually the other thing that we need to do as an organisation is, I think we've traditionally been an administrator in a B2B business, and now we're moving to a B2C business, having direct relationships with fans, and broadcast drives that, and various other commercial reasons too, and just generally growth. And so we've had to recruit people from a lot of them from outside the industry. Some of it because we're trying to create an entertainment product. So hired a guy from Psycho, Simon Cowell, Britain's Got Talent, that type of thing. So you can imagine some of the angles there. We've also, we're lean, and so therefore from a marketing point of view, we don't have big budgets, and so therefore we have to think smart. And so a lot of our marketing team comes from startups and consumer-facing startups. And also, broadcast is a massive bit of our business, and so we've taken a lot of talent from just generally the media industry. There's no end of talent out there, and equally there's no end of interest, both in terms of working in sport. I think we're really lucky there. People are interested about it, but also really interested with the turnaround challenge. I think it's in some respect it's an amazing time to just be in certainly the industry I'm in, but just generally to be working anywhere where it's going through massive change. I'm in the last year I've had dog years worth of experience, and it's my first chief exec job, and I've had 7 years worth of experience in 12 months, and that's attractive to people. I think my main focus is actually going back to governance, is around getting the right non-executives, the right independence in place, where again there's no end of talent and interest in there, and people that want to be on a journey. So that's been my main.
It comes back to that point around it's just important to get the right advisors around you, above you. Like, again, that came up in the last conversation. transforming your team, was there a lot of change? How have you focused on training and developing, I guess, the team you have, rather than going outside for video time?
What I've learned through my different experiences and through the failures that I went through, like Reader's Digest, is I call it PPE, so internal people, external people, and execution. And what I've learned is a combination of external people and internal people that want to be on the new trip, because we have a very ambitious goal. And the first 6 months, I spent most of my time listening to people, putting together a strategy but bottom up. I'm a true believer of getting people involved and they own it, but bringing in new people to change that mindset, to change the culture. And it really, really worked well. Because it starts at the top, and if I don't have the mindset of change and growth, then my executives don't. And if they don't, then people won't do it either. So it's what's important for me that I brought in new blood, but I also recognize people that have the ability and wanted to, the attitude that was talked about before. It's so important. And people can't learn attitude. You know, you can get better on your soft skills, but that is something that people want and need to focus on. So that was really important to have the right team to change that mindset. And I really say it's a combination of both internal and external.
Yes.
I'm just going to say, one of the best things that I did when I arrived at Arsenal, which somebody else told me they did, so it was a just copycat, is I spent 25 minutes with every single person in my team. There's 154 people. It took me 6 months. I discovered talent that had been hidden under many bushels. I discovered people that were in the wrong jobs, that if I just moved them, they would just fly. I decided, and very quickly worked out who wasn't on the bus.
Yeah.
And I was able to help guide some of my people in shaping the structure through coaching rather than directing. I'm not a command and control leader. I'm a bring people with you type. And it was the best time I've ever spent. And I would do it every year if I had, every other year I'm going to do it, because you have every level of the business. You need to have people working at above their capacity, like people who are sort of overachieving and really pushing forward. And when you have a particularly small team, as I think we do, you need every level to be operating. You can't just have some great people at the top. It's got to be bottom up every level. And it is, you're so right, Andrea. You can have a great plan. Like, my plan is fantastic. I know that. I'm just joking. It's really simple what we have to do. But it's all about the people.
It's all about the people. I exactly did that. The first 3 months, my 90-day plan is they had to come in, they presented to me, I got to know them, I walked around, I spent most of my time with people. And it's incredible how much I found out from the receptionists all the way up, asking questions, learning, absorbing. They got the answers. And that was so important because 6 months after COVID hit, and I learned so much. And I think that one of the things I tell, people that I promoted internally, reporting it to me or even underneath, is you're only as good as the weakest link in your team, but it's so important to be able to communicate with people, to connect with people, and spend time. I find that too many leaders spend time in the office, walk around. I spend a lot of time walking around and being with people and show them that I'm human. I got emotion. I talk about my personal life and the challenges I went through COVID, and there were many. As my mother was dying, my father was coming out of, my son was coming out of detox, this company that I barely knew, so being human, so they were human with me. So they talked to me about their emotions, their challenges. And that is so important. I cannot emphasize, I agree with Juliet, you can have the greatest strategy, but if you don't have the people, it just...
But the speed of change, the energy required for transformation, the speed of digitalisation, all of your business is European predominantly, is that fair to say?
Yeah.
How do you engage with your team now? We're all managing the challenges of new hybrid workforces. What ways are you going about making that work?
I think that's a question every leader's grappling with, to be honest. I definitely one we do and I do. And the communication, the engagement is key because that drives an understanding, it drives alignment, and it drives trust. And if you've got that trust amongst you and your team, then you can go a long way, I believe. But there's an interesting, certainly in professional services, which is sort of a nascent area for us as an industry sector. There's some really interesting rhetoric around hybrid working, rule sets coming out about days in office, and I think every business has to adapt to what they need. We had 11 offices across Europe before the pandemic, so the idea that you go into the office and see everybody was a fallacy. We've embraced hybrid working. We still, some areas of it do well for us. Some areas, you find need to be face to face and need that human touch. But definitely, we find it with people we recruit. That they often come from perhaps organisations that have tried to be a bit more rule driven around working patterns. We haven't had to do that. I don't think we plan to do that.
But in terms of your leadership style, are you out more? Are you visiting the teams more now?
I genuinely, yeah. I mean, I've always been a big believer in that, getting to know people several layers through the organisation, engaging with them, understanding what their drivers and motivations are. And so when the world opened up again, that was definitely something that we've done, and we've again, building a new business within the group, trying to establish the identity of that. You can't just do that with single one-off communications. You just have to. There's no substitute for just being in it and repeating yourself and getting that message out.
Is there a theme? Is everybody hybrid in terms of the current working? Nobody's currently getting 4 or 5 days a week.
We ask our teams to be in 3 days a week, and I don't use the word mandate, but I strongly encourage them to make Tuesday and Thursday at least 2 of their days, and the other one is up to them. And I think it's really important for people to be back together. A meeting face to face is just fundamentally different to a meeting on Teams. And when you're building a team, you've got lots of new people, you're running a big transformation, as well as running the day-to-day, running a football club, because our transformation slightly being on the side of our desks, so we're trying to do everything. You solve so much face-to-face.
You changed your working environment, didn't you?
Yeah, we totally changed our working environment. We were very lucky to get 2 offices, and we had a great offer from AstraZeneca to take over offices. So we created what we don't call it an office, we call it a hub, collaboration hub. And it's so important. We don't mandate, really, Juliet, we strongly suggest 2 to 3 days, because we're at that phase where we need to innovate. We need to be much more avant-garde and, like I said, entrepreneurship, and it's going to be through collaboration, pioneering, and working together to make it happen. And again, it starts on the top. I'm there 4 days a week at least, and showing that we have to be there. We create an environment that is more of a great place to be, a cool place to be, and I think it attracts more people. We have a lot of gear and one.
I don't have a desk. I sit
Yeah, me too.
at a different place in the office every day I go in.
Exactly.
I don't have an office, I have a computer. No paper.
Yeah, I don't have an office either.
What about you, Simon?
So we've got an office. We've actually, because we're slightly different, part of our strategy is closer collaboration with other people within rugby. So we share an office space now with 6 nations, with URC, which is the Celtic League, the European League, the Women's League as well, some 15s. And so we're physically putting ourselves together because we need to collaborate. And actually, I think my reflection on it was that we did a load of business in our lives during the pandemic because it was built on the goodwill that existed and the relationships that existed previously. When you're in such a relationship-focused business that I'm in, where you have to manage so many different stakeholders, you need to be together. And I was trying to fix cultural issues and trust issue within my organisation, which I think broke down because of remoteness and new people coming in, people there. So nothing beats face-to-face engagement. In fact, there's one of my exec who I have to develop a relationship with this guy, and yesterday I had to go to Gloucester Rugby Club and Northampton Rugby Club and back to London, so that's a pretty massive round trip. And the ground we covered.
You put him in the car next to you.
Well, I mean, by the end of it, we were singing Oasis tunes, but it was the fact we back to London, and that massively makes a difference. That engagement at a personal level. And it's the same for the players as well. You imagine, I think part of that trip was to go and visit. I'm seeing every single player in the country over the next couple of months to engage with them, tell them about what we're doing, talk them through what's happened, and you can't do that on Zoom. You just don't get any engagement.
Conscious of time, I'm going to go into questions in a few minutes. Juliet, all of us have significant revenue targets and commercial responsibilities for our organisation. I appreciate the next panel session is around ESG, but I just want to draw that into, the need for Arsenal Football Club to grow and probably grow by a significant number, and how you are connecting that to a more sustainable world.
Yeah, no, it's before I joined Arsenal, I had a time out and I put myself through a sustainability course at University of Cambridge because I'm passionate about it, and football is an amazing platform. We have, as I said, 80 million supporters around the world. We need to stand for, we need to understand how we're going to address that. One of the first things I did was work with a consultancy to create our sustainability strategy, and by that, environmental and social. What I discovered is that we're doing so much we just don't talk about. So in our local community, we have a community department that has 1,500 individual projects ranging from what you might think is standard developing, helping young Muslim girls get into football, to bringing young youth offenders out of prison and helping them working through football to get them into jobs. We put 1,000 young people into jobs through that training program last year, to collection of the rainwater at pitches, to use to water the pitches, to having a battery to have operate our stadium, and so on and so forth. Single-use plastic, getting rid of single-use plastic. It's about bringing it together, and we have a strategy called Arsenal Acts, which we haven't launched externally because we're working to set ourselves some really challenging targets. So we already joined the United Nations Sport and Climate Action, I can't remember the acronym. Anyway, long acronym. We were one as well joined, but what we're trying to do is make sure that if we say we're going to do something, we put in place the ability to do it. And then from a diversity point of view, it's a really, really challenging challenge, a big challenge for us. So we have across our organisation a very diverse workforce, but as you go up through the workforce, it becomes white. We are, I can tell you, the only Premier League club to have a 50-50 male-female executive. Shine love, if you ever watch on the television, us and then other clubs, it's man, woman, and the other clubs is all men. But we need to be more diverse. We have obviously our chief executive is originally from India, but we need to be more diverse. So we're working on a program to hire local people from the community, from a diverse background, because we need to reflect our support. We're one of the most diverse support base, so we need to ensure that. But it's absolutely the heart. So what we do on and off the pitch has some impact in what we do from a sustainability point of view. And the elephant in the room is our travel. Yes, private jets for the players, but only if it's three clubs. The rest they go on transport. We're trying to work out how to use airplanes as aviation fuel. There's new things coming, but actually it's our supporter travel, which is the biggest environmental impact. We've got series of plans that we're putting in place.
Very conscious of time.
Sorry,
No, that's fine. Very conscious of time. Have we time for a question or two? Are the microphones in the room? Question.
Yeah, I think we might have time for just one quick one, but a few hands up down the front. So
If
they can be there.
Yes.
Yeah, just a, I work with a championship rugby club, and I've just been watching the documentary about Wrexham, and I wondered whether there are lessons for rugby clubs and maybe football clubs around the success of Wrexham club rising to the top and going to the schools.
I think there's a general comment that in order for sports to grow, transcending culture becomes quite a big opportunity. And another good example of that is often cited is the Netflix Drive to Survive documentary, where you had a pretty niche sport, a niche following, and then suddenly you're getting very young boys and girls following it who never followed it previously because of the story it's been telling. I think Wrexham's story itself has just captured people's imagination and it's created a brand in itself. So I think how we transcend culture is the opportunity. You can tell your story, which then opens up into choosing various other things. But also the celebrity endorsement is huge. We're on the hunt.
Thank you. We don't have time, so I'm conscious we have another session coming on straight after us. Juliet, Simon, Oliver, Andrea, thank you very much for sharing your experiences with us today. Thank you very much.